to the Growth Over Grades podcast, where we talk about education ideas and topics that matter most to our Spaces EDU educator community. I'm your host, Melody McAllister, educator advocate for Spaces EDU, your solution for digital documentation and assessment of student learning for all. In this episode, I talk with award-winning elementary principal and speaker, Tara Desiderio. In her own words, Tara is dedicated to helping educators and students embrace a love of learning and happiness. I have followed Tara for quite a few years on social media before meeting her this past spring and summer at different educational conferences. In fact, Tara came on our ISTE recap episode not too long ago. I'm grateful for getting to know Tara in person, as she is a truly sincere person who knows just how to encourage those around her. In her presence, I feel profound joy in someone who truly loves her mission and role. I imagine her elementary school is a wonderful place to be, and I'm not surprised that she has been selected to receive the Paul Rinaldi Principal Award based on her leadership as a principal and commitment to student achievement and work to break barriers for students and their families and school systems. Tara, it's such an honor to have you back on the Growth Over Grades podcast. Congratulations on your newest award. Before we get started, can you tell our listeners about your journey in education?
Absolutely. Well, Melody, thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited to be here. And I always love a conversation with you, no matter what our topic is. So I'm super excited to be here today. As an educator, I have been in education for 24 years now. It's hard to, after thinking back, they go by so quickly. And it's hard to believe that I've been in education this long, but it's been an amazing journey. The last 16 years of that journey, I have been an administrator and embraced that wholeheartedly. I started out as a kindergarten teacher and worked my way into the principal at a kindergarten center. And then when we closed our kindergarten center, I moved over to the building I've been in for the last 14 years as a K-5 building with just over 500 kiddos. And it's West Coastville Elementary School in the East Penn School District. And I feel blessed to be there every day, leading and growing with our kids. So it's been amazing. I've always had a passion for working with leadership with both kids and being in the classroom. I did a teacher leadership program and then worked my way into the leadership to get into the principal role. Then accepted a position on the PASCD board, and I've been working with them for a while for our Pennsylvania ASCD. And I also have been working with Future Ready Schools, doing some advising as a principal advisor. So I've been blessed to be doing a lot of those things, just getting out there and being able to network with people like you who are doing amazing things in your state as well.
Oh, well, thank you so much. It is truly an honor to sit with you today and pick your brain about what a portrait of a learner really means, especially at the elementary level. But you are just doing so much. And the way that you smile when you describe all that you do, I would love to work for you. To have such a happy and joyful principal it's not just like something that makes your heart feel good. It is literally a secret ingredient, or maybe not so secret, that really transforms lives, whether it's the student or teacher. So kudos to you, and congratulations on everything. As we get started, I wanted just to pick your brain because we had a very interesting conversation. I think this past spring, were we in Pennsylvania when we were talking for the first time?
Um, yes, did you?
At the tech.
Yeah, yep.
Yes. And I was so fascinated because your district has a portrait of a graduate, and so we're used to hearing about the portrait of a learner, portrait of a graduate at a secondary level. But you started telling me about how you have adopted it for elementary. So can you tell us a little bit more of what that looks like at your school?
We have, absolutely. So we have worked a lot together, probably over the last 10 years or so, to embrace what we believe in East Penn. It creates the most successful learner we can. And we always said, that we wanted to create lifelong learners, but we never dove into what that means. So from 24 years ago when I started, I'd hear, we create lifelong learners. And then we were like, but what does that really mean? What do we have to do to get someone to want to be a lifelong learner in anything? It doesn't need to mean they go to college. It doesn't need to mean it doesn't matter what path you take. It matters that you're being happy and successful in whatever is making your heart really thrive. So we tried to really dive into what that means. And we decided that we really wanted to make sure that we were creating effective problem solvers, collaborators, critical thinkers, communicators, really making sure that even after we dive into that, we look at like students themselves being confident, because we see so many students that like one thing but don't want to say that they like it because it might not be cool, or might not be accepted for it. But embracing what makes our kids thrive, and confident, and making that acceptable, and then being okay with the fact that some people might not like their mindset. So really, we'll talk a lot about like a follow up mindset and a growth mindset that we talk to our kids a lot about. It's okay to be different. It's okay to like something that your friend doesn't like. It's okay to help them understand how we get there. So really having compassion for one another. We embrace SEL in our district wholeheartedly. We've started working with Harmony and working with their SEL program, and just trying to make sure that we're creating like happy and healthy learners, to make sure that they can embrace what they're doing throughout their lives. And then ultimately creating that love of being a lifelong learner and how to continue to embrace that along their road. So we show our portrait of a graduate to our kids every year. They see what their goals are. We often will like have them highlight that and actually say like, oh, I see you being curious right now. And like, they have it up there and I'm like, which one of these do you think that you're being right now? And so getting our kids familiar with the fact that they can be resilient and that they're going to have to embrace things that don't always go their way. And that's really, really hard for kids right now. Kids are really used to having people scoop in and save them all the time.
Yeah.
One thing, both as a mom and as an educator, that embracing that failure is okay. We have to
Yeah.
embrace failure, and some of the greatest things in life have come out of the things that we've failed over and over and over from, and never
Yes.
given up on. So it's something I talk to my own kids about all the time. And then in school, when you get tears from that didn't work my way, we talk a lot about, okay, but how are we going to learn and grow from this? Like, what did we learn, and what can we do differently next time? So whether that's a problem with a peer or a problem in their studies, we try to embrace all of that. So really just making sure that the kids know, like, different things that are going on, and also knowing the kids in their classrooms. So
Yeah.
being like globally aware, what's going on, and embracing other people's mentalities and philosophies, and just having a growth mindset truly as a young child.
I love that. And you've been here long enough. So have you seen a real shift? Because what you're doing is not something that anyone could just implement overnight. Like it
Yeah.
is. So, I mean, and you've been at your school for 14 years. So
Yep.
tell me what that process has looked like from beginning to where it is now.
It's a lot. It honestly starts with culture. And that's one thing that, as you know, I'm very, very passionate about. And I don't believe that anyone can be truly successful without being supported, having a supportive culture, no matter where you are at any time. So we as a school team of educators talk about that all the time. Who are we being for our kids? Because at the end of the day, this is not about us. So that's been a huge mind shift to really think like, I'm going to this and it's about me as an educator.
Right.
And it's not. It's about you being happy as an educator and you giving back and you doing all those things as an educator. But it's also about like, how do we embrace these little minds? And because every year they look different in front of us. So
Mhm.
we're getting students coming from all different walks of life with all different mental models now.
Right.
And how do we embrace their little minds and create this model and recognize that this is not about me. So when a child
Right.
misbehaves or something happens, like,
Mm.
and we take it personally, and
Yes.
how do we really like embrace, okay, what is the kernel of truth in this? Is there something I'm might be misstepping on with this friend in my class, or is there something different that I can shift and actually work on to do better for them? So that took years of different things, and we've embraced a lot of different books at our school. So every year
Mhm.
I take a different book and really highlight it. We started with the fish philosophy and talking about positivity. We've talked about the energy bus and taken, John Gordon's work. We've taken personal authentic and worked with Tom Murray's work for a few years. We really dove into that and talked about hidden stories. That was something that hit home really hard with our team, and how we cannot take our portrait of a graduate and do anything with it until we know what hidden stories those friends are bringing to us. And post COVID, there's even more things that
Mm.
have happened to our little friends earlier in life. So really understanding that both our educators have hidden stories and our kiddos have hidden stories, and how that matters. So bringing this book piece into it and actually embracing different titles that are meaningful to our team. And to be honest, there are books that we get and they hit home with some of our staff, and at other times they really fall short on people. So it depends on who you are. But the more we do them, the more they're able to see like, this is really all about kids. It's all about creating that positive environment so that kids do feel self-aware, so they do feel inclusive, they feel confident and curious. And how do we embrace that curiosity without crushing it? So
Right.
those are all things that are on our portrait, and we really try to embrace all the time. And so we talk a lot about it as a team and then with our kids so that they can
Right.
ask questions too and then highlight their friends when they're doing that. And you'll hear them say like, I love that you're being so curious. So to hear a 5 or 6 year old say that is, it makes you giggle every time you hear it because it's more of an adult thing to say, but they really are embracing each other and what they're doing and celebrating what their friends are doing.
When you are talking about your school and your culture, it sounds like there's a true sense of belonging, not just with staff, but definitely with staff and with students. And I think that is key for everyone to feel like they have a place. And if you want kids to matter, you also have to, your staff has to feel like they matter. And I just see and I sense that just coming out of you that that's where you start. So I love that. Kudos to you.
Well,
Um,
thank you.
Yes. Tell me, so we talked about kind of the portrait of a learner. We're going to keep talking about that because even though for you it's common practice, for a lot of people it's still new. And so we're definitely going to hit more on that. How has that changed your grading and assessment practices, or how are your grading and assessment practices different at your school?
A few years ago, pre-COVID, we started looking. We graded just like everybody else, and we had letter grades, and we were really evaluating what that means to our kids, and what did it mean to pass with an A or pass the class with a B,
Mhm.
and were we looking at a whole child, and actually were we embracing our portrait of a graduate while doing that? So at our elementary and middle levels, we embraced standards based grading and standards based practices, which again is a huge culture shift, both for our educators and for our families, because our families grew up did never would have grown up in a time where they had been given grades that were not letter grades.
For sure.
So embracing that model of this is what we need to actually acquire a standard and become proficient in that is hard for people who are not educators to embrace because they didn't get 100 on that and get that A. They achieved the standard and they are confused by, well, does that mean an A then? I got that and that means an A. So really taking those mental models of what success means to kids and what it takes to move kids from point A to point B, and really help them. Our goal at the end of every day is for kids to be growing. So if they're getting an A and they got 100 on something, it doesn't mean that they actually learn the whole concept. They could have memorized something and moved on from it, but can they apply it? And that application piece or that curiosity piece is part of our portrait. And so we talk about that a lot. And who are we being while we are actually being a successful student? And so when we look at that, standards-based grading really aligned, and we looked at the work of. We actually got training. Our Some of our leadership team got training with Tom Gusky, and we did a lot of work for probably about a year and a half, 2 years with him in our area, and he really helped to move that work forward and really push our thinking as to what was our end goal. So
Right.
when he looked at our portrait of a graduate, and we really tried to align that and really think about how we were really embracing project-based learning. We're very fortunate. What Erin Murphy is in our district as a curriculum. She works in our Office of Teaching and Learning in our curriculum and instruction, and she actually wrote a book on project-based learning. And so we were able to tap into her knowledge and how to actually work with a lot of those practices and putting them into practice in our classrooms. And what did that look like from an elementary, middle, high school level and how we do that. So that was extremely helpful. But at the end of the day, we really look at how do we really look at our kids and diagnose what their need is and then almost write them their own prescription for success. So when we look at that and embrace that, it's helped our all of our leaders to really move the work forward in how we make kids successful, that it's about an individual, not about a class. So yeah.
Okay, so many questions. Like for
Yeah.
500 kids, that is incredible. Like you prescription for each. How do you? Can I ask you? Like, how do you guys do that?
So we meet with our teachers often. So we'll meet with them. They have common planning time every week, twice a week. They have common planning time with all of their team. So they have planning every day, but not with their whole team. Twice a week they have it at the elementary level. They get to plan together. We, as our core team, will also meet with them during at least one of those times, and we have student data meetings, and we talk a lot about what is the data telling us. So we don't make decisions right at that moment, but we look and we're curious about like, okay, well, how is this kiddo doing with this? How are they doing, in that? All right, what is their attendance? Okay, something's falling off. What does their attendance look like? How have they been emotionally? Is anything going on? When they're thriving, we look at that too. We're like, what is happening that they feel such success and so much motivation in the classroom? So we look at all of those things, but we bring everybody on our team together, and our core team meets weekly to talk about kids. Two of those weeks we'll talk about K-2, and then the other 2 weeks we'll talk about 3-5. We alternate each week, so we kind of do 250 kids at a time, talking about them and just kind of running through. And we've got lists that we make that we will call them like a hot list, that we're actually looking at, like, these kids are we're worried about, and this is the reason. It could be emotional need and it could be academic need, but they're on this list that we're really watching. And every time we meet, we write down, like, what are we doing to kind of meet that need. And those things are shared with our teachers too, because whereas they can't come to every single meeting, they always are in the meetings, and everybody, like, is part of that team to make that decision. So our nurse comes in, and our speech therapist will come in. Our psychologist is always there. Our instructional specialist is there. We have an instructional coach who works with us. And so we're all in there. Our guidance counselor is always with us. So it's all of those people that kind of work together and come in and out of the meetings to be like, this kid is this kid on your radar for anything? Or, I've really seen this kid take off, and have you noticed that? And why is that? Trying to embrace that. But it's a matter of having a lot of safe conversation, because we also have conversations that are hard, where we really push each other's thinking, and you can't do that without a safe space or safe culture. So, when you think about pushing back on someone's idea or someone's why about why something's happening, you have to do it in a way that you're embracing their thoughts and taking it, but really pushing their thinking. So our team feels comfortable doing that. And I think that's why, we can do that back with our teachers and our teams, and make our kids know that, like, we're there to support them and we're going to help them be successful. And sometimes that, they need to embrace that with us. And but we listen to them too. Like, we'll often sit with our kiddos and have those meetings and say, hey, we noticed this is happening, and why do you think that is? And as they get older, they're able to do it better on their own, but it is that safety part of them, being that safe space for them to have that conversation, that we're going to work together to help you achieve this, and what is your goal? So
Yeah.
they need to be a main part of that.
So, and you are in on these meetings, you, the school
Yes.
leader.
Yep.
Wow. And so I feel like this is not something I prepped for or anything, but just I'm listening. Like, you would have to have really involved staff, dedicated staff, like, your turnover could not be great to implement this every year. Does your staff stay with you for long term usually?
They do. They do. I haven't had a lot of turnover aside from retirements or people who have had to move due to a spouse
Mhm.
moving. Generally, they stay with us. But at the end of the day, that is always my goal, Melody. Like, what matters to me most is that our team feels happy about being there and feels
Yeah.
like this is a place I want to go to every day. So
Right.
when we start feeling like I don't want to do that, then I'm doing something wrong in what our culture is sending the message out there for. It's just, that's important to me. And I
Yeah.
try to take that feedback. And if there's somewhere, I always say, am I misstepping somewhere? Like, is there something you need me to do differently that you can feel better? And then that also means, though, embracing that many of our teachers have leadership potential in different ways. Does not mean they need to be a building leader, but
Mhm.
are we pushing them to feel like they are an active participant in how we as a community are growing? So a lot of our teachers are involved on a lot of our committees throughout the district, and they sit on those committees because they feel supported, which is our goal at the end of every day, is that we want their voices to be heard and they feel supported. So they do play a role as either like a grade level leader, a subject area leader, and they sit on those curriculum committees and voice what we're doing and how we can be better.
Yeah. Okay, like, I just want you to know, like, I'm just, like, overwhelmed with all of this wonderfulness. And I wanted to say too, you guys write your report, like, your report cards are not the same as they're not standard. Like, you have tell us a little about that. I'm not saying it well, but
No,
okay, yeah, tell us.
when we embraced a standards-based report card that we wrote in East Penn, and so it took a long time
Mhm.
to move into what our report card looked like, to what our goal was to match our portrait of a graduate, and how are we going to meet the state standards. And so our kids are are graded according to a standards-based report card, but it also takes into that emotional component, that SEL component, into every one of those subject areas. So we kind of make sure that our kids are thriving academically and socially in their social emotional status. So we write underneath each one of the subject areas that the kids are evaluated in, and give feedback as to how they're achieving, both academically and emotionally.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I love how you've embraced the whole child and just the community. What do parent like you must have kids that have siblings that grow, more than one sibling grow through your program. What are parents telling you?
They, that's the one part, is that we want our parents to feel like they are a part of our everyday. And then from long ago, when they didn't exactly feel that way when we started, um, that was my top priority, is breaking down that barrier between home and school, and helping parents mental models of what they believe from when they went to school was not going to be the same as what we were going to do with their child. We have many families that come from different countries who also have a very different model that we need to learn and embrace as well. So creating that safe space for them to come in and feel comfortable with us, having tough conversations that their child might be struggling, and how do we help them, and making sure that they feel like they can walk through our doors. They really have just said that they appreciate the family feel of what we do. And we've had, one of the hardest things to do is get families in as like a nighttime, if you're doing a parent training or anything like that. And I think those are the times that I feel most success, is that we have embraced working side by side with our PTO, our parent teacher organization, and doing a lot of school events together, so that they see the school working together in all different realms. So bringing kids together for free events where parents aren't paying for them, where we're saying, like, this is a safe space. We'd rather you to be together as a family. And sometimes some of our families don't take that time to actually do things as a family. So we
Right.
try to push that envelope and giving them opportunities to spend time as a family with their kids. Um, and that gives us time to actually talk to them about, what are we doing, what are you hearing at home, anything you're worried about. And we've had a lot more of those conversations in those spaces, where they will come and they'll be like, hey, just a quick question, this is happening in second grade, wondering why. And I always say, like, I love that you asked that, and I try to give them an answer and let them know, like, if you want to come in and talk about anything else. That open door policy has been huge.
Mhm.
Even with brand new parents, I had a parent show up the other day that I didn't know was coming and enrolled, and was very upset about something, and how the enrollment was going. And I was like, come on in, let's come in and let's talk about it. And we broke down that wall of that disconnect that was happening. And he was so happy when he left. And so, like, I think it's a matter of acknowledging the human side of what we
Yes.
do, and how busy we are as parents and as humans, like raising these little humans, that we need to say, like, okay, where's the kernel of truth in all of this? Where can
Right.
I, accept where we may have misstepped? And I will always apologize.
Right.
Even if I don't know what I'm apologizing about, I'm always so sorry that they're feeling that way, because I want them to know, like, okay, let's fix it. Let's work together to fix it. And that's our goal academically and like in the school community. So their feedback has been coming positively more and more. We had a parent involvement night the other night that talked about social media, and we had almost 30 parents there, which generally, when we would do these before, there'd be 3, 4, 5 parents that would show up, and we could offer all the pizza you wanted. And there was just not a lot of people showing up. And so to have on a Tuesday night for 2 hours, 30 parents show up and be
Yeah.
dedicated to learning about how social media is impacting their kids, that was huge. And we were running that, and they knew it was safe. It was my guidance counselor and myself, and we were real with them, and they know that. So yeah, it's just
Gosh.
creating that environment.
I love that. Your ability to empathize and reflect is pretty powerful. And I know that it comes naturally for you. And I've been with you enough now to know that like it really is a very sincere thing, but it's not something that I see everywhere I go. So kudos to you because you really are phenomenal. And I just want you to hear that because it's amazing. And I am listening to your story gives me hope that other schools can do this, and like you said, it wasn't an overnight thing. It's a process. Even talking about how your parents, like just a few, and I've been at a school like that where just a few
Mhm.
came, and you tried so hard to get so many involved, and it can be disappointing, but obviously you guys did not give up and you are still working hard, so that is wonderful. Kudos also to your parents and your community and to your teachers. um and I could probably talk to you for a long time, but we're getting closer to that. And I want to ask you a couple more things.
Sure.
And we're talking about big ideas. What are you hoping that your students take with them after they leave this elementary school experience at your school? Uh, what are you hoping that they leave with more than anything else?
Confidence, confidence in who they are, their ability to make mistakes and embrace them. Just really that fall up mentality. That's every day we talk about who you can be, and how we're so much better embracing, like, that's how we all get where we're going. And there are, this doesn't, I know you said this comes naturally. I in my heart love every piece of this, but I try to work really hard to self-reflect on where I messed up with people too. So I've made plenty of mistakes over and over and over again, but I also am willing to listen to what other people need that I might not be seeing. So I recognize sometimes my lens might be cloudy and that I might not have lived through certain things that other people have lived through, and there are certain things that I've lived through harder than other people. So bringing that to the table, and kind of embracing all of that. But I want our kids to have that. I want our kids
Right.
to have the ability to self-reflect and not say, like, it's not okay, or I need to win all the time, or I need to, that motivation to get there is one thing, but that need to say I won every time is something that our kids struggle with. That getting
Mm,
a trophy for everything they do, and just being able to embrace the process, and really that they can, by surrounding themselves with people who build them up, is going to help them get someplace in life.
yeah.
Just, we talk about this all the time, especially with our fourth and fifth graders who are starting to get it. Like, people you surround yourself with impact who you are. So are you happy with who you're being right now? And those are hard questions, for fourth and fifth graders, but
Right.
we ask them and they really do a great job of reflecting. But they need an adult there to kind of walk through that process with them. They can't do that by themselves. So I want them to feel comfortable that the people they're around, they can lean on and find those people, find the adults. We always say that. Who's the adult in this building that you can go to lean on? And sometimes it'll be a fifth grader that says, it was my first grade teacher. And we're like, go to them. If you need something, you go to that person that you connected with, and let them know.
Right.
Yeah.
And for kids to feel like they belong, they need to have an adult in the building that they know they can lean on.
Mhm.
And that's incredible. I know we were talking about wisdom, and you had said earlier that what you just said, it's who you hang around with really does impact who you are.
Mhm.
And so for teachers to be able to have that relationship with students, what is the key? This is just the wisdom that I want to know. What is the key thing that you see them doing to build that strong relationship?
Listening. Being an active listener. It's something that people really don't do well right now. People interrupt a lot.
Yeah.
People don't really ask a question to get an answer. And so that's again something we've talked a lot about. How truthful is it when you actually ask someone how they are? So
Right.
it's like something you do because you're like, "Oh, hi, how are you?" And do you really mean that? Because kids know when you don't mean it, and they're going to stop telling you because you didn't care about what came after the "how are you?" And
Right.
we as adults know that too. So you can say, "I'm great," when you are not.
Right.
And because you know that that's just a question people ask. So we have a time in the morning every morning. We start our day in all of our classes called morning meetup. And so we talk about what our day looks like. And we also talk about things that probably happened the day before that kids have brought up. Could be on the recess yard, could be in the classroom, things that are bothering them. And then as a school family in that classroom, we talk about how we can problem solve through that. And that has been something that we've been doing the last 2 years, and has been a huge shift in the relationships that our teachers have built with their kids and with all their kids.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of transient kids who are in and out of our building, and so it's not that they've known who we are since kindergarten. They could have come to us, in any given grade, and we always make it known that, like, we want to make sure that we we hear you and we see you, and we recognize, like, that you may need something different than somebody else, but we want everyone to know they are heard. So it's a gift to be an active listener, and I really do not feel like many people actively listen to get a real response. They're just there in body versus getting being there to actually welcome the response and then embrace it. And what do you do with that response after that?
Right. I love that you said that. That's one thing in my own classroom that I really try to guide my students when someone is talking and they want to talk so badly that they keep their hand up the entire time. I'm like, we will get to you. Put your hand down, because I want them to learn that it's not just about what we want to say, but listening what others have to say. That's what is really important. So I appreciate all that you've shared today. I don't even know how to say this well, but this conversation has really blessed me. And I hope that every listener feels the same way, because it's encouraging. And so many times, the political heads talking or the people in the media talking, we don't get this picture where things are working well, where kids are succeeding, where teachers are doing something worthwhile and they feel it, where leaders are as much in the game as the teachers. So this has been such a meaningful conversation. I thank you so much for coming. And if you're listening and you want to follow Tara on Twitter, it's at Tara_Desiderio. How else can our listeners reach you, Tara?
I am the same place on Instagram and on Facebook. I'm out there, just doing my thing. Or you can follow West Coastville Elementary School, and you can follow what we're doing there. That is one of the biggest things, and that's one thing I learned years ago from Joe Sanfilippo's message of, if you are not telling your story, someone else is creating that story for you. And so we really try to tell our story so that people know who we are and what we're doing, and so that we feel good as a school community in celebrating that. So we would love people to follow us on our journey.
Do people, I have to ask this, do people come and like observe your school?
We have had many people come in. Yeah.
I love that. I kind of want to be that person. I want to see how it all works. So,
You are welcome anytime.
all right, everybody. I hope that you will take a minute and make sure that you're following Tara if you're not already. And also, let's keep the conversation going in our Spaces EDU educator community at facebook.com/groups/spaces EDU. Thank you so much. And we'll see you again.